lifestyle has caught fire, and we talk about the rewards and challenges of it. This is the Wandering Worker Podcast with Matt Lloyd.
Welcome to the Wandering Worker Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Matt Lloyd. Wandering Worker is powered by Magic Apple Technology, where we've been saving good businesses from bad phone systems since 2008. Whether you're tuning in from the comfort of your home office, a cafe, or exploring a new corner of the world, this podcast is your compass to navigate the ever-evolving landscape of remote work. We'll uncover invaluable insights, share personal stories, and connect with experts who have mastered the art of wandering while working. Today, my guest is Jim Morris with Impact Effect. How you doing today, Jim?
Wonderful. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on, man. So before we get started into it, we do 5 random questions. I have a silly little random question generator here. So just kind of off the top of your head, quick answers. You ready?
Let's go.
All right.
Fired up. I didn't know we were getting into this today. All right.
Yeah. These are sometimes good ones and sometimes not so good. So let's see. Okay, this is all right. If you could live in a book, TV show, or a movie, what would it be?
Ooh. Book, TV show, or a movie? Man, this is going to go deep, I think. The movie that I would live in would be Inception.
Okay.
Have you seen that?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Tell me why Inception.
Just exploring different realities.
Yeah.
I mean, like seeing what's out there. You know, what if that was a world we lived in today?
Yeah.
You know,
no, that's a good answer.
It's something that seems like fiction, but maybe not so.
Yeah, not so much as it's not possible today, but maybe down the road a little bit.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, this one's not as good, but we'll try it anyway. What's your favorite piece of clothing you own?
Shoes? Is that clothing?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
So you're a shoes guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. I have quite a few pairs of shoes myself. Let's see. Favorite city?
Boston.
Yeah.
Yep.
No, that's good. All right. What talent would you show off in a talent show?
Juggling.
Really? You're a juggler?
I can't juggle, but that's why I'd choose it.
Yeah.
I'd like to put on a show at the talent show.
I can sort of juggle. Like a little bit I can juggle for 15, 20 seconds and then it falls. But yeah, it's one of those things. I think juggling's pretty cool.
I think it's pretty cool. I mean, I'd love to do it. I just can't, I think that's why I like it so much. It's a challenge,
Yeah. Last question. What's the worst movie you've ever seen?
The worst movie I've ever seen. What is it? Girl with Dragon Tattoo?
Really? Which one?
Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah. So the one with, what's her name? It had the guy that played James Bond in it.
Yeah,
that version.
I just couldn't get into it. I think I fell asleep within 10 minutes and just slept through the whole movie in the theater.
I kind of like those movies. There's 3 or 4 of them. They're not too bad. There's the original set of them, which aren't as good, and then you have those which are a little bit better, I think. But yeah, cool. So, briefly introduce yourself. Tell us about what you do and who you are.
Yeah. So, that's a loaded question.
Yes.
Very interesting.
Created to where you do most of the talking, so go right ahead.
So my whole entire life has really been navigated through relationships and the art of human connection.
Right.
And I can always remember back as a kid, navigating friendships and being in certain social circles and, being in different activities or playing different sports. And what I realized in those moments were those relationships that were built always have allowed me to progress through the dark times and align myself with those same folks to celebrate the best times. So for me, everything I've done has been really around human connection and building relationships. So as I fast forward in my life and have started businesses, sold businesses, bought a business, pivoted a business, transitioned, closed a business, I've navigated a lot of different scenarios where I've realized that the power in any of that growth is through relationships and people. So now, fast forward to today, I speak on stages, I educate business owners and executives on how to build that human connection and really guide a team that's enrolled in positive leadership, great culture, a great hiring, firing process, and also developing great sales leaders who are selling from an ethical standpoint and really building relationship in that process. So that's where I've been spending a lot of my time lately, working with companies and entrepreneurs and business owners. And then also I love real estate. So I spend a lot of time around transacting and investing and all types of different modalities around real estate.
I got you. You mentioned something. Tell me a little bit more about the selling from an ethical standpoint. What does that mean to you?
Yeah. So one of the things that I've realized, and I've been talking more about this more recently, is understanding if this is truly a need for someone, whether that's the product or service that you're providing for them, and really going in it from that servant leadership and that servant heart focus. To go in with curiosity. And one of the key things that I've been talking about is compassionate curiosity. Well, you can't actually be compassionate if you're trying to sell someone something they don't need, right? So if we lead with compassionate curiosity and we probe and we ask these certain types of questions, well, then we can actually make an ethical decision to understand, hey, would this product or service actually benefit John, Matt, or Dave, or some of these folks that we've talked to? And or is there an opportunity to recommend maybe a different solution, or build a long-term relationship where maybe it's not now or today, but it's tomorrow, a week, a month, a year, 7 years?
Yeah.
That's something that I believe as we progress and go further and further into life, people are going to want that and seek that more than ever. And the reason why I believe that is because I am a big believer that human connection is greater than artificial intelligence. Now, do I believe in artificial intelligence? Of course, because I think there's automation and there's tons of opportunity.
It's a tool. It's a really good tool.
As a tool.
Right.
But how do we, when everybody's getting AI and automation and we lose the face-to-face, we lose the connection, we lose the opportunity to do this right now and have scientifically our neurons mirroring each other because we're in the presence and we're together and we're dialed in and it's human-to-human interaction, we're going to want that more and more as we see more AI and more AI. So my goal is to help these organizations and these leaders and these sales managers and their teams to really navigate a world of compassionate curiosity that's focused on human connection.
Yeah, the reason why I like that is because with my salespeople and my sales team, I tell them the same thing, that to approach the sales from a place of empathy. So when you're sitting across from, because not only is it's not selfish to be empathetic towards the person that you're talking to and trying to help, but also it's a better experience for that person as well. When you're coming from it from a selfish standpoint, that is obvious.
Totally.
You can feel it, you can see it, you can smell it, sense it, all those things. You know this person's only trying to do something for themselves. But when you approach it from a place of empathy, where you're really saying, all right, I'm going to put myself in that chair for a while. I'm going to have this conversation as if I am this prospect, then you're helping you and you're helping them.
Yeah.
Because like you said, when she can realize, hey, is this really helpful right now? And I always say it's either a yes or a no, or it's just not right now.
Totally.
Right? So I thought that was an interesting thing, because I push that a whole lot. It's crazy. Usually that's how we can tell whether or not we're going to have a decent salesperson, if they can make that switch.
Totally.
Because most salespeople don't really approach it in that way.
100%. And I think the pace of the sales transaction actually dictates if you're curious and you're empathetic, right? Because one of the things that you just mentioned was like, you're trying to push the sale and selfish. So like one of the things that I realized, that I messed up early on in my real estate career, I was having a great year selling 50 homes, crushing it. It's like, whoa. But one of the things that I realized was I started to get commission breath, and I pulled back and was like, whoa, something's misaligned, right? Something's off. And I started to study it, and I was like, it's the speed and the pace of the process. I'm trying to speed the pace and the process up. And if I speed that process up of the sales transaction, I lose the empathy.
Right.
I'm not empathetic. I'm not curious. So how do I slow that down? How do I pause?
Yeah.
And I think talking about the opportunity, if not right now, well, when you pause and you build the relationship, you start to understand there's other opportunity, a referral. Who can you introduce me to?
Sure.
If not now, and I treat you great, maybe you'll tell a neighbor, maybe you'll tell a friend.
Yeah.
So the pace and the speed was something that I had to learn the hard way.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how I nailed it down. Have you ever experienced that? Like, have you ever caught yourself trying to move too fast and then?
Yeah. So it's kind of fun because in what we do, we sell business phone systems. It's kind of commoditized, right? So once you get someone into the pipeline or into the funnel, it happens very quickly.
Gotcha.
Within the first meeting whether or not now is the right time to look at this. So for us, speed is still important. For us, it's gonna naturally be a fast thing. But if you still do it from a place of empathy, then you're not killing it. You're planting a seed, right? So
Totally.
this discovery meeting becomes an opportunity to build a relationship, whether that be hey, yeah, dude, I need this, let's make this happen, and we move forward, or yeah, I'm under contract, or you know what, I've got other projects that are burning right now that I've got to put out, and then I can look at this project.
True.
Whatever that may be. But from our standpoint, because it's business to business versus business to consumer in a real estate, and it's a small transaction, it's an important one. Phones are important to businesses, but it's not usually the most expensive thing they're spending every month, right?
Of course.
So it's usually not a problem. They don't want to care. They don't really want to talk about it unless it's broke or in need of upgrade in some form or fashion, right?
It makes sense, yeah.
But that's where it's like, for us, it's all about, we have a whole sales process that we built out, and it's a very step-by-step thing that we try to, and when we hire people, one of the first questions we ask is, are you coachable? You've been doing this for a long time, but can you follow a new process, or are you stuck in your ways? And if they are stuck in their ways,
great question.
Then it's like, okay, I could tell them, it's like, hey, if you follow my process and fail, that's on me. But if you follow your process and fail, that's on you.
True.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like, just follow my process. And then if there's
Let's do
issues,
this thing
we
together.
can tweak it. You know what I mean?
Totally.
So, in starting this whole thing, and we talked a little bit, you're doing like events now and doing some other stuff and like conferences and things like that. What are some of the challenges that you've faced in trying to get this side of your business going?
So one of the things I learned last year when we threw Impact Effect 23, which is our annual conference we do every year. So last year being year one, was really understanding how much time, effort, and energy to pull off something of that magnitude, right?
I can only imagine.
We were talking earlier, like
Yeah.
$240,000 one-day single event, right? So there's a lot of things that lead up to that for that to be a success, and there's a lot of pieces. The biggest thing that I learned last year, and I've got actually a crazy story around this, is asking for help.
Yeah.
That was the biggest lesson. And there's some ego into that, right?
Sure.
Like, I got it, and I know a lot of people, and, there's a lot of support, and we've got some of this going already and that, right? And then when stuff starts falling apart, because it always does, right? And there's always a fire. Something I believe in heavily is when you're doing big things or you're making big gains, whether that's personal or growth or for your business and revenue and growth or opportunity, there's always something that's going to go left or right because it's new.
Sure.
So in that process last year, I learned ask for help. And I'll tell you just a quick story around how that kind of came and really just smacked me in the face. Was we went up to Massachusetts. I'm originally from Boston. Your question about favorite city, that's where that came from. And we had a scheduled vacation in August. The conference was in October. And that was really when a lot of stuff started to kind of fall apart. We lost some team members. Some people just said, hey, I'm not succeeding on the sales side, so I'm going to try something else, right? And so stuff was kind of falling apart, and we had this vacation plan that it was already paid for, and it was with family, and we just had the new baby, and they haven't seen the family. So we travel up to Massachusetts. We're driving up to Maine. So we fly into Mass, we rent a car, we drive up to York Beach, Maine. So it's about an hour. My wife says, I'm tired, I'm going to get in the back seat. And the baby's in the back seat. They both fall asleep. So it's just me driving this tiny rental car, right? I'm 6'5", 230. So I'm like, let's just get there. And I'm thinking about the conference. I'm thinking about things falling apart. I'm thinking about mistakes made. I'm thinking about new opportunities. I'm thinking about how to leverage partnerships and friendships. And I'm thinking about all the pressure and complexity. And I'm starting to get overwhelmed to the point where I'm sweating.
Yeah.
And like I literally wipe off beads of sweat because when I'm stressed, my hands sweat, my head's like, that's just my thing.
Sure, yeah.
And I shit you not, I'm driving down the highway and we go over an overpass, and in big styrofoam cups, it says, ask for help. And I'm like, and I just got full body goosebumps again, but I'm like, are you kidding me? Right? Like, and I look back and my wife's still sleeping, my daughter's sleeping, and I'm like, whoa. And we got another 50 minutes on that drive, and I'm looking at every overpass now. There wasn't one thing on the next 30, 40 overpasses. And it was just one of those moments, man, where it was like, wow, okay, I need to ask for help. And once I started to reach out and have some vulnerability and, hey, I didn't really train this salesperson and they were an elite salesperson and I was excited, but I didn't have my stuff together.
Right.
This is year one. Can you help me? And once we started to build and people started to help and the community started to really develop and that glue started to affirm us all together as a team. And then the conference happened and it was, went flawless.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about the conference last year. So you said it went flawless. Who was there? Give me a little feedback from it.
Yeah. So we had 12 speakers, full day conference. It was at Wild Horse Saloon downtown, 66,000 square foot venue.
Yeah.
So we went big.
Yeah.
Had the big iMag cameras and the screens, almost like a stadium event.
Yeah.
We had several speakers: Jamie Miller, Brian Gelke, Coach Michael Burt, Cody Askins, Janine Driver. Brought in all types of people from different areas and regions. Craig Siegel came in from New York to really just focus on personal branding and relationships, and also some sales tactics as well. And what I learned in that process last year was the content was great, but there was so much information that people left with notebooks full.
Yeah.
And we strategically had action items, and our MCs would recap the speaker, and these are the 3 takeaways, so people could focus specifically to write action items down. And what I realized was that was great, but life's complex. There's a lot of distractions. People are busy. And we had 4 follow-up events that came included, and attendance wasn't as big as the conference. And what I realized was people are busy. So how can we do it this year where we are working on your business and on yourself throughout the whole conference day? And you'll leave with your notes and follow-ups, but how can we be so intentional with the content that you're going to develop growth within that 9-10 hour experience?
Right. So limiting the need for the follow-up stuff and trying to get it all interactive within the day that you have them and you've got that audience.
And we'll still do 4 follow-up events 4 weeks after, just for implementation and questions. And one of the things through the process that I learned last year was, man, I gotta go all in. And how I want to go all in is to service the attendees, to service the partnerships and sponsors at the highest level. Mm-hmm. And if I can educate them before the conference on how to squeeze the juice, how to get the most of it, how to build relationships that equate to revenue, or relationships that equate to new introductions, right? If I can give people education on the front end, create a great experience that they grow the day of, and then provide 4 opportunities for follow-up and questions and implementation and stay with them for the course of a month, opposed to one day,
right?
Then I believe the impact and the effect on those attendees and partnerships and sponsors will be greater. And that's my goal for this year.
Okay. Yeah, it was going to be my next question. Was like, last year when you it was your first one you're starting, what was your big bright goal that you wanted to achieve for that? And did you achieve that? And then how has that changed for this year going forward and everything?
Yeah. So the biggest goal for me and challenge was believing in myself.
Yeah.
Right? Creating this vision. And, it got to a point where I believed in this so much that I removed all the messaging and scripting and was voice memoing people from me saying, hey, I'm putting this together. I can promise you on my family's name, right? New dad, new marriage, on my family's name, that I'm putting every inch and effort into this thing and making this the best that I possibly can.
Yeah.
And I'd love for you to join us. And this is me personally inviting you as the founder and owner of the company.
Yeah.
And And by doing that and having that level of conviction allowed me to win no matter what happens, right? Because I did the things I said I would do. I fought through the hardships. I got back up. I mean, it was a wild ride, you know? Yeah. And at the end of the day, I pulled it off, and people were amazed, and people's lives changed. And I still get text messages and tagged online, and we're almost, 7-8 months after the conference last year, so
ramping up for the next one.
Exactly. So it's just this constant urge of thank you and support, and this happened and that happened. I never would have met that person, and I never would have tried this, or I never would have, tried to build this new program, and it's just, man, it just keeps pouring in. So I would say the challenge of myself, me against me, and then also understanding the actual impact and the ripple effect and how long that can actually go for. It's amazing. It blew my mind. I didn't think of it to be so impactful for choice of poor words considering my company's impact, but that's how I feel. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't mind, share me a little bit about your company itself. We talked about the product, and I'd like to know more about what all is basically that what you guys do, just this annual conference? Do you do other things? What products are you offering out there? And then tell me a little bit about the structure of your company and how your company is set up.
Yeah. So there's a few different offerings. The first one being I can come in and speak and train a company for a half day or a full day or just a keynote speech, right?
Right.
Then we can offer more in-depth workshops. I partnered around some leadership content in an app with the Ledden Group. Dr. Patrick Ledden out of Vanderbilt. He's actually writing a book with James Patterson currently. So there's that offering. So there's an app with content and consistent training over the course of a year. Then there's one-on-one consulting for executives or team leaders or small groups. But really, the event side and the mastermind and the virtual summits, and the digital community that I built, those are really just opportunities and offerings for the community locally here.
Gotcha.
And we'll bring other people in from all over the U.S. We've got people in New York and L.A. and usually where I go speak and build relationships, people tend to gravitate. But the goal is really to build a community where people can see each other, can build human connection. If they can't make it, there's a virtual summit opportunity. And then this is kind of the big Impact Effect 24 is the big annual conference where we bring people together, and then we offer a couple cohorts of mastermind as well.
Got you.
So last year we did 2 cohorts. We brought in different speakers. We did some training, some facilitations. Several people came back for the second cohort. And that was something that I just launched last year going, how can I bring the knowledge that I've gotten from all these relationships and these stages and these speakers that I've met to our local community here in Nashville?
Got you. Okay.
So a few different offerings in different ways, but the core business would be speaking and consulting.
Got you. So is it just you? Do you have employees? Kind of give me the understanding of your company structure.
Yeah. So everybody's really remote, right?
Yeah.
I don't have any full-time associates besides 1099.
Sure.
But strategically for my business, that's the best strategy that I found.
Right. Of course.
I've got an assistant. I've got someone in the Philippines. I've got a marketing team. I've got an advertisement team, podcast, videographer. Most of my relationships, most of my business success is because of the different backgrounds and different opportunities and flexibility for me to promote these services and share some of these customer successes.
Yeah.
So it's been really interesting to navigate those partnerships because when you don't have someone who's 100% necessarily focused on your business 45 hours a week, you have to have a strategy and understanding of how that relationship works. And I really messed this up for a long time, but once I realized how that blends and the systems and the sequences and the cadence, it's the best thing I could have ever done. Because the level of diversity and the growth for me has been immense based on, hey, if my advertising manager is crushing it and he works with other industries and other people, he's bringing new knowledge to me and my business based on those experiences and those contracts and those deals.
Right.
So I am pro like abundance. Like I want my partners and my 1099s to go grow their businesses, because if I build the relationship well, they're going to pour in all this free education because we're friends, or we're at the level where we've had deep conversation and understand each other and know how to make each other tick.
Sure.
And that's really what comes with the work and the depth that I've been doing around human connection and ultimately becoming a better leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So it all kind of flows in together. And I've realized why go and talk about this stuff and research it without actually implementing it in my partnerships. And once I started to go deeper on that, I'm like, this is all I want to talk about, right?
Yeah.
Like this has changed my entire business and life.
So do you read a lot of business books?
I do.
You do? What's your favorite business book that you've read, and what's your biggest takeaway from it?
This is another deep question.
Yeah, it's a hard question.
Like
I
the
know.
books and the movies early on.
Yeah.
I would say I just read a book. I can't think of the title. Why not? But not A Life of Surrender. Something around surrendering. And it was in a time where a lot of things were going sideways for me. And I found myself surrendering to life. And once I kind of leaned more into faith, and once I kind of let go of some controls, things started to fall into place. So more of a mindset, more of me believing in what I'm doing and following my imagination and my uniqueness. And when things are going sideways, really understanding that maybe that's a good thing, and maybe there's a learning opportunity, and surrendering to those mishaps, knowing that things are going to get better and it's for a good reason. I would say that's just really a season of life that I'm in.
Yeah.
And that's really portrayed into everything business related. So more mindset, right? But that's really, really been helpful, because when I've launched a lot of different things. I've tried to be unique. I've tried to stand out. I've tried to really be intentional, and through that process, not everything works.
Sure.
So to put energy into it and have to pivot or transition or kill off something, sometimes that's hard. But what I've learned from that has allowed me to create and build at such a higher level for what I'm doing now.
And I think that's the thing that, as business owners and entrepreneurs, the thing that we have to realize, and the thing that one of the best pieces of advice I would give young entrepreneurs starting into it is fail fast and fail often. The smoothest road is the worst possible road to be on, because it's been traveled the most. You're not creating anything new there. You're not doing anything unique. You're not doing anything that people are going to stand out and go, oh, check that out. It's about, we learn from those mistakes that we make intentionally, those times that we gamble on ourselves and what we want to do. And that's how we tend to grow and get a little bit better. At least in my opinion, that's what I've done in my personal experience.
100%. And I think the challenge is keeping that mindset when you're in the shit.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like once you realize the benefit of it, it's much easier. But at the same time, especially when you're first starting out, there's a risk factor that balances that scale a little bit. And sometimes that risk factor just automatically want to put your hand on that side of it.
Totally.
And go, risk is way too much here. It's, when you don't have to,
Yep.
You can just as easily put on the other side of the scale and say, hey, I'm leaning into this.
Totally.
And we're going to, either win or lose here. But I also believe in not gambling everything out every single time. Risk,
risk adverse.
Yeah, I am definitely risk adverse, but risk is great. And one of the things that a guy that when we first started our business, he was like, rewards go to the risk takers, and that's just you got to be able to take risks, but you don't have to gamble everything every single time. This is in Vegas, right? So it's a matter of thinking through a situation, realizing what the risks are, and hey, weighing it out and going, okay, yeah, this is something I want to lean into and do that. But knowing that it needs to be a little uncomfortable every time. Totally. Because if it's comfortable, then it's probably not worth really doing, right?
And if it's too easy, what are you learning?
Yeah, what are you learning from that? Exactly. I mean, I've In trying to build a sales team with Magic Apple, an outside sales team, I have failed so many times. And people always ask, well, what does a successful salesperson look like? I said, I don't know yet, but I know what an unsuccessful one looks like. I can pretty much spot him from a mile away when he comes walking. I know who you are. But I don't know what a successful salesperson looks like yet because we haven't experienced that yet. But we will. It's just a matter of keeping on and keeping on and keeping on and not quitting and making it work. So
that book, by the way, is called The Surrender Experiment.
Okay.
By Michael Singer.
Michael Singer.
Yeah, right. I wanted to look that up
because
I
appreciate that.
That is a powerful book, and I would highly advise to check it out.
Yeah, I'll check that one out. So you've been doing this now. You've had your company for how long?
This company started in 2020.
2020. Okay.
I'm the crazy guy that started throwing events in 2020.
Oh, I get it, dude.
Consulting.
Yeah, it makes sense. I started my business a month before the crash in 2008, so I totally understand.
Oh, yeah, man.
Best time to start a business.
That's it.
When nobody wants to do anything to you or talk to you or for you or anything.
Yep.
So that's how you figure it out. So you've been around for 4 years or going on 4 years. You wave a magic wand 5 years from now. Where are you at?
5 years from now, I am throwing this conference still, but my meetings and my involvement is solely around the content and creating the experience.
Got you.
Rather than every other process as I am today.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm building, right? And it's new. So I'm excited about that. I'd like to travel more and create experiences with my family. Mm-hmm. So that's important. You know, in 5 years, I'll have a couple toddlers. We've got one on the way due in October.
Congratulations.
And I've got a 1.5-year-old now. So
fun.
I actually envision myself spending time with them in 5 years. That's kind of the first thought. And then, you know, I think for me is speaking more and creating an impact and then bringing people into this community. And that's something that my heart wants. And that's not something that actually dictates revenue to my business.
Right.
Is how can we just get great people in a great curated rooms helping and doing things with great other people. So that would probably be my goal, is to really grow that. Revenues and business stuff, it's important. I've got a life, I've got a couple houses, I've got a family, but it's really not my focus in this season right now.
Yeah.
My focus is depth, relationships, and helping others.
Got you. So when you paint that picture of 5 years down the road, what are you intentionally doing now to actually achieve that goal?
So continuing to create processes in my business.
I'm a process guy myself. So I love hearing someone, they say I'm creating processes. I appreciate that.
Yeah. It's important because if I'm going to scale, if I'm going to remove myself from more of the operations and the sales and focus just on the content and the experience, I want to give them the opportunity to succeed at the highest levels, and they deserve that, right?
Yeah.
I do believe you deserve a roadmap, a guide, things of that nature, as any employee, whether it's 1099, full-time, part-time, contract, whatever. So that's going to be really important to get there in 5 years. You know, I think, you know, from the family side of things, you know, the focus right now is really trying to understand how to navigate a world with a couple kids. You know, I don't know where that's going to go.
It's fun. It's a roller coaster.
You know, this last year and a half has been the best year of my life. Most challenging. But like just to see that joy and to see where that goes, and who knows, maybe we have 3 kids at that time. 4, who knows?
Yeah, well, once you're outnumbered, it really doesn't matter. So you can have 4 or 5. There's no difference. I always maintain.
Just keep rolling, baby.
Yeah,
build a team.
We have 2, and we were done with that. We had a boy and a girl, and we were like, okay, we're done. But it's a lot of fun. So you have a lot to look forward to there. Do you follow like any kind of operating system? Like personally at Magic Apple, we're an EOS shop, so we do traction. We follow that. Is that something that you've kind of tied yourself to? Or anything?
Yeah. So I actually thought about maybe being an EOS implementer at one point.
Yeah.
You know, I think my entrepreneur creative approach won't keep me in the lines of a lot of places. There was a period in time where I looked at franchises and had some opportunities and some relationships, and I just couldn't do it. So I think for me, the basis and foundation around EOS is probably the most similar to kind of how I look at and build things.
Yeah.
I love the process of 4 disciplines of execution, wildly important goals, lags, leads, Stephen Covey. That's a good foundation, a base for me as well with kind of how I build structure. So those 2 would probably be the most prominent.
Yeah.
My goal right now is to really put people first in everything I do. Yeah. People, customers, and then the business. And I think that if you research some of the largest organizations that have done that, some of the most profitable, some of the most admirable people in businesses that live a wholesome life, not just a rich life, but a wealthy in all aspects, have always led and talk about leading their company with people first, customer second, business third. And I'm leaning more and more into that as I'm helping and consulting other companies. So one of the things that I learned was if I can help someone, that's a win-win, not it paid or not paid, because if I learn something in that process, then I can help this person with it. So as my business is growing, I'm acquiring new knowledge and these partnerships and these relationships. I don't call them clients because we're both winning.
Right.
Right. And just to be vulnerable, I'm not this guy that knows everything. I'm not this guy that's been doing this for 50 years. Right.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that's being extremely intentional, trying really hard, leveraging great relationships, showing up for people and supporting them, and continuing to pull in new information to help them grow in what they need and where they're trying to go.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Well, listen, before we wrap up, I just want to extend a heartfelt thank you to you, Jim. Thanks for being on today. I really enjoyed the conversation. Is there anything that you want to leave with the podcast today? Where we can find you? Give me your website address, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
It's just been such a great conversation, and I appreciate you taking the time out of your day. If you want to get in contact with me, therealjimmorris.com is the best way to do that. ImpactEffect24.com. If you want to check out the conference, see what we got rocking here in Nashville in September, shoot me a message, DM, private message. I'm happy to connect. Relationships are rocket ships, so let's build something together. Let's collaborate.
Yeah, cool. Again, thank you for being on. I really appreciate it. And that's it for this episode of The Wandering Worker. I hope you've enjoyed hearing from our guests today, and be sure to mark your calendar for our next episode. We will continue to deep dive into the world of The Wandering Worker. We'd also like to thank Magic Apple for sponsoring today's episode. If you're not thrilled with your business phone system or work from home experience, give us a shout. We've been helping people just like you since 2008. I'm Matt Lloyd. Until next time, thank you.